Hi everyone, welcome to my next Flip Classroom lesson. We're going to continue working on essay writing, but in this case we are going to focus on the introduction. So the introduction is very important for two reasons. One, it helps your reader immensely. In your introduction, if you do it effectively, you are going to outline all the topics that you are going to use to support your thesis. So your reader automatically has a roadmap of what you're going to talk about and why you're going to talk about it, which makes it a lot easier to follow. Now, because you're creating this roadmap for your reader, you're also going to benefit from it as well. It's going to help you a lot as a writer. If you outline everything that you need to talk about in your introductory paragraph and align it with your thesis statement, you're going to know exactly what you need to talk about in each of your body paragraphs, which will make it much easier and definitely a much smoother writing experience. Now, like everything, we're wondering how do we write an introduction. So there's going to be 3 steps that I'm going to outline, and then we'll look at the example I gave you in class to see how it's actually applied. So the first step you're probably used to. You don't want to bore your reader. You don't want me to fall asleep while I'm grading your essay. That will not result in anything good. So the first step is the attention grabber, or what I like to call a hook, because you want to get your reader hooked on what you're talking about so that they can't put it down. You may use a joke, an anecdote, which is telling a story, either real or fake, a quote, or a surprising fact. Now, these are all really good tools to use to start your introduction, but even though you've probably worked with them a little bit in 8th grade, they're actually pretty hard to do effectively. People don't usually see them as very truthful, or really, to put it nicely, they just see it as kind of fluff. You don't really need it there. They don't really understand why it's there. Until you become a really strong writer, I would generally stay away from these here. But we may get to that point this year, so don't throw them out completely. So what we are going to use is what I like to call the cliffhanger. So the cliffhanger is a tactic you can use to start your introduction that gets your reader interested because they don't know 100% what you mean by what you're saying, and it really interests them because they want to read on to figure out the answers to what you're saying. But the problem with that is, with all that mystery, the next thing that you might get from your reader is this statement. What are you talking about? So your next step in your essay is going to be, or in your introduction rather, I should say, is going to be to actually get into the details of your topic so that you bring everything together and it's not confusing. And then finally, as you already know, you're going to end your introduction with your thesis statement. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sample that I gave you today in class so that we can clear up any confusion you have about those steps. So the first step is going to take place in your first sentence. That's your hook. Vampires, werewolves, the black cat, witches, and aliens are all fictional characters in novels and movies, but what people tend to not realize is that monsters are in their lives every day. So, as you see, the hook isn't confusing. It's just not answering everything. So the reader wants to read on to figure out exactly what you mean. So they're probably sitting there wondering, monsters are in my life every day? Like, what does that mean? And then they want to read on to figure out what you're talking about. So that's when you get into bringing your topic together. So I explain next what I meant by that statement. This reality is evident by the fact that a monster is not just a scary character, but is actually something real that causes mental, emotional, and physical harm. So I explained what I meant in my hook and brought it all together. Then I go on to explain how every person will deal with a monster because it is in our everyday life. My next step is to bring in the real topic of my essay. So I know that I'm going to be using literature to support all of my ideas, so I start to talk about literature. These monsters often come alive in literature that authors write. And then I go into my specific topics that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the Gift of the Magi and the monster that's revealed there, Alice Walker's The Flowers, and so on and so forth. I know that you guys can read it and see it there. And then finally, I finish off my introduction with my thesis statement. So tomorrow you're going to come in and we are going to use those steps in order for you to write an introduction with your groups. and I'll clear up any questions or concerns that you have. I suggest that you look over the example again with the steps that you have to see how exactly it works. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Bye.